Hey guys, so I told you I was gonna go ahead and do a live recording of cooking at home. Okay, so to prove to you that you can do this in 30 minutes or less. So I am going to get started now. Basically, I'm gonna make something really simple. This is like super easy to make. It is just pasta, turkey red sauce, and some whole wheat pasta. Okay. Um, I'm gonna start out by putting my water on to boil in my little pot here. Right. Put some hot water that helps it to boil faster. So just put hot water on. Um, and I'm gonna fill this up about 2/3 of the way. And you can't see me right now, but you can hear me. So I just go ahead. I do that first. I always do that first. So I go ahead. I put that on. Put it on high. Let it go, just so that you can see my pot on the stove, boiling water. Right. I try to keep my salt intake low. So I don't put any salt in the water because I'm gonna use the seasoning I'm gonna use has a little bit of salt in it. So then, one thing that I try to keep in the habit of doing, and this will help you too also, like lower this a little bit so you can see a little bit, is I try to take out meat like the night before. You know, it's not perfect meal planning, but it's part of my preparation, like for the week or whatever. If I know I want to have meat sauce, and it's usually at least once a week, I take out my meat out of the freezer, put it in the fridge to defrost until I'm ready for it. So I've had this in the fridge for like 2 days, so I'm going to go ahead and make it now because you really don't want to leave it in there too long. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And basically what I'm going to do also with this is I'm going to cut up an onion, probably a fairly large onion if I can have it. When I'm in my fridge right now, you can't see me, but this is like a medium-sized onion. Like this right here, that's a medium-sized onion. So I'm gonna cut that up real quick. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab another one of my saucepans so I can start my sauce. Never mind all that noise, that's just my pots and pans. I've got a lot of them. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Anyway, I rinse that out a little bit. Not because I put up my pans dirty or anything like that, but you know, this is kind of a trick that I've grown up with. And when you rinse it out a little bit and you put your pot on the stove, and these are for like really newbies, so the people who know this trick already, don't pay attention to this part. You can always fast forward. But what that does is you put it on stove, right? Put my other saucepan on the stove. Once that water has dried out, you know your pot is hot enough. So that's a really cool trick. So these are little tricks that you can do to help your process go by faster. So what I'm gonna do while that pot is warming up for me and the water's drying out, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut up my onion. And I am just looking for it's in the sink, so I've got to wash my cutting board. Now, in an ideal situation, you don't have any dishes in the sink, you won't have anything to wash, right? But that only takes a couple of seconds. And my favorite knife in the kitchen. If you don't have any kitchen tools yet because you're super new to, and I know you can't see me right now because I'm over there by the sink. But if you're super new to cooking and you have no tools in your kitchen, this is probably the knife that you want to get. You can go to Target and find a knife that looks exactly like this. You see how it curves and everything, and the way it is. I've had this same knife. I got it at a trade show. I've had this same knife for about 10 years or so. Still going strong. The thing, I can't even tell you what kind of knife it is. All I know, Asian chef knife, surgical stainless steel in China. I'm sure it had some other kind of brand name, but this right here, this curvature, I'm convinced has everything to do with the reason why it chops so well 10, 12 years later. Fabulous knife. You should have one of these in your kitchen if you don't have anything else. So one thing that I start doing once the water starts drying out in my other semi-silver saucepan is I turn it down. But because I'm going to put a little bit of vegetable oil in, and I'm just going to try and put this down so that you can see the chops. Maybe I'll bring this down so you can see me chopping right now. Yeah, that's perfect. That's actually perfect. So like I said, this is for the newbies. So if you're like an old pro at cooking, at home cooking, you can fast forward this piece. But what I'm doing here is I am taking off the skin off of the onion. And this is just a technique that I've done. I've used the back of my hands to peel. You can use your hand to peel it if you want. I prefer using the knife. And you just peel off the onion, peel off the outer skin. We don't want to cook with that. It doesn't cook well. It doesn't meld well. And this one's being real stubborn, so I'm going to go ahead and just give it a little cut. And just peel that off. So you want to get all of that off. You want to make sure it all comes off. I do a little extra trick to make sure that I have all of the skin off. I just rinse it with cold water. And I'm going to show you another trick, because you know when you cut your onion, it's going to make you cry, right? Well, I leave the water running, cold water running, and do my chopping with the cold water running. Don't worry about the water bill right now, because you're going to be able to cut it up you're going to be able to cut it up really fast and turn off your water in a minute, okay? Now, for those of you, while I was talking, that didn't see how I chopped that up, really, really simple, right? And this is going to take practice. It took me years to master this, so don't feel any kind of way. You cut it long ways like this. You cut the onion in half, and then you cut each half in, I guess that'd be like 6 long ways pieces. And then you dice going across once again. Again, don't feel no way if this takes a couple minutes to master. It's perfectly okay. So now my pot's ready for this, right? So I want to saute these onions a little bit before I actually put the meat inside the pot. So I am going to, for those of you who are not familiar with with cooking rather, I'm gonna show you how to measure. This is going to be about 2 teaspoons of oil. And this is just enough to saute your onion. Okay? I kind of eyeball it at this point, but just so that you can see what it is, I'm going to take this onion and put it in a pan now. Hear that? Isn't that fabulous? That's music to my, I'm going to turn the camera around a little bit, maybe I can, maybe I can't. I'm still kind of, maybe there's somebody out there who can teach me about photography, but there you have it. There's my onions starting to glaze up. And I'm just going to turn those a little bit. And maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't, but my water, while I was doing all of that and talking to you, my water started to boil. Do you see? You see my water boiling there? Yep, my water's boiling. So it's ready for my pasta. So the trick to these 30-minute meals is doing a couple of little things all at the same time. So I'm getting ready to get my spaghetti. Since I'm just doing red sauce. Get my spaghetti. Now I like to use, if I'm going to do pasta, I like to do a whole grain, let it work, let it be more nutritious for me. Do a whole grain instead of a white pasta. It's just more nutritious for me. You know, it's got more fiber. It's going to help do what it needs to do. You know what fiber does. And I love pasta, so there you have it. So I'm going to put that in my pot. And like I told you before, I didn't add anything. I didn't add any water. I'm trying to get that camera over there to my pot so you can see my pasta in the pot. Right? There goes my pasta in the pot. And there goes my onions. They're going at it. right? They're getting nice and brown. They're gonna be ready for my thing soon. And so I think I'm gonna bring this back up here for you, okay? And then, so now, while the pasta's going, and I'm gonna turn that, one thing I forgot to tell you, turn that pot down to medium now. I started it off at high, and so I'm gonna turn the pot down to medium so that it can just cook now. The pasta can just cook. There's no need to have it rolling at high, because it's just going to make a mess on the stove at this point once I add the pasta. Just a little helpful tip. Okay, so my onions are nice and soft now. They're getting that nice caramelization going on and everything. So I'm ready to do that. And then it's time to put my turkey meat in there that I've had in there. Because I was like, yep, I'm going to have pasta this week. Let me take that out the freezer. Smell a little bit. I always like to do that. Put it in the pot. Get another one. I had 2 packs in there. I like to make a lot so I can just have a lot. Because I work nights sometimes, so I really want to make sure that I am packing enough for the whole week. So what I do here, as you'll see, I'm going to go ahead and try and get it in there so that you can see what I'm doing. I don't know if I can turn it around for you. I don't think I can. But what I'm doing here, I hope you can see that. Can you see that? Can you see that? There it is. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get this guy all, mashed up. We don't want like hamburger sized pieces. We want nice minced meat going on. So if you can see that, can you see it? There you go. You can see it. Good. And I'm just going to be mashing that up. And then I'm going to add some more let me see if I can move you up a little. Here you go. You can see my stove a little bit. I'm going to add some more seasoning to this now. Now, I rarely use anything more than a little bit of adobo, which I got right here. And I'm hoping I have Italian seasoning and some parsley, because those are my favorites. But if I don't, it's not a big deal. Got a little bit of adobo. And I'm eyeballing it, but I would say maybe half for the size that I had here. I had about 1 pound of turkey meat, so about maybe half a tablespoon for that, because there's a lot of salt in it. So I watch it. If you want a little bit more savory, more salty flavor, and frankly you can afford it, go ahead and put a little bit more. Then we've got, okay, so I've got parsley, but I'm looking for that Italian seasoning because it really does bring a little something to it. But it looks like, folks, I don't have Italian seasoning, but I got the stuff that I can make it with. I think, maybe, perhaps. If not, I'm going to be very sad. But I think the only thing that I have right now, that means I have to go shopping, is a little bit of time. So I think that's all we're going to have with this today. And it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Usually, if I have a little bit of, what do you call that? Pesto, the basil, basil pesto. Classico makes a great one. I'll add that to it. And so I put it all in the pot. And a lot of it, I'm just eyeballing, as you can see. A lot of it is really just me eyeballing it. See all that goodness in the pot right there? A lot of it is just that. But, if I were going to give you the entire recipe, what should you put? I would say maybe a teaspoon, rather, of you know, thyme. Well, no, let me back that up. I would do, if you had to make your own Italian seasoning, I would do maybe half a teaspoon of thyme, half a teaspoon of basil, dried, of course. This is supposed to be a 30-minute meal, right? Half a teaspoon of basil, half a teaspoon of thyme, half a teaspoon of oregano. Put it all in there. Okay, if you've got Italian seasoning, I would say go a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. That already comes in the pot. Okay, and then we just kind of mix that all together. Right, this is like done almost. Like what I'm gonna do here, and like I said, this is not like the healthiest, but this is healthier than most meals that you're gonna get out in the street. Okay, because you prepared it at home. You know where it came from. You know who cooked it. You know whether or not I washed my hands 20 million times. You know what I mean? Or however which way. I'm a big wash my hands 20 times when I'm cooking, even when I'm doing the simplest meals. In case you didn't notice that, I already washed my hands like 3 times preparing this meal for you guys. But at the same time, while I'm doing that, I'm just going to rinse off my spoon a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and just make sure, although I usually get Barilla pasta, make sure that the pasta is kind of separating well in the pot. And usually with Barilla, I don't have any problems with that at all. That's kind of their thing, is that their pasta just doesn't stick. I've used other brands, and frankly, I always have problems with the pasta sticking. So you kind of have to play with your pasta in the beginning to make sure it's not sticking. Now, I wasn't paying attention to this at all at this point because I was using Barilla, and I know I don't have to. But if you use another brand, as soon as you put it in the pot, you're going to want to eyeball it with a wooden spoon or whatever you've got in your kitchen. You're going to want to just make sure, just kind of gently separate it. You'll also notice that I didn't break it in half. I just like to cook it whole. That's just a preference. You can break it in half. A lot of people do. So that's that. I just did that for the moment. Now I'm going to add a little bit of ketchup. And again, I'm eyeballing it because I do this all the time. But if you wanted to measure it, I would say maybe 1/3 cup. I really do that to give the sauce a little bit more. I don't have any tomato paste in the house, quite frankly. And I use that to give the sauce a little bit more gumption. So there you have that. And then, that's my daughter. She can come into the shot. She's the one I cook for all the time. This is Ray. She can come into the shot. Ray, I'm just showing people how we can cook at home less than 30 minutes a day.
Oh, so, is that the turkey meat?
Yes. Yes, and healthy too. And healthy. By the way, people think cooking healthy is more expensive, but it really isn't. It really isn't. Ground beef, generally, I usually like to get the turkey meat just because it's leaner. But ground beef, by the way, I dumped some regular old ragu because it was on sale, and I just said go ahead and get that. Dump some ragu sauce in there on top of that ketchup you saw me put in. And then I am a big waste not want not kind of person, so I want all the sauce this jar has to offer. So I rinse it out a little bit with water. Right? So I know how to save money. Just trying to tell you. And then
Just getting some tea.
and my baby girl's getting some tea right now.
I like tea.
And I'm going to put a little bit of sugar. This takes away from the acidity and frankly is gentler on the stomach. So I'm just taking, this is my preference. You don't have to do that if you're still eating white sugar. By all means, take about a teaspoon of that white sugar, put it in the sauce.
Major key.
It really, you know, if you ever say, oh, I can't have red sauce because it's heavy on my tummy, you forgot the sugar. Little trick I learned growing up cooking. And then this sauce is done. We're 20 minutes into this video. This sauce is done. I'm going to turn this down to low. Okay. I'm going to turn this down to low. I'm going to stir this sauce. And in about 10 minutes, my daughter and I will be eating while the pasta's still going. That's done. All you've got to do now, let me just show it to you. I can't really turn it around while we're going, and I don't really want to. So I'm going to just go show you that sauce that's done, that was done while you were with me. Is that cool or what? I'm getting ready to cover that now and simmer it for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay? And it really only needs 10. Look at our pasta boiling. That's almost done. When I tell you that we can cook for, you can do 30 minutes a day, cook for yourself, cook at home, and be completely and utterly healthier than eating out 3 times a day at about $30 a day. I mean to tell you that you gotta stop.